for example, I mean, Walter Bosley talks a lot about Disney as well. I used to work for Disney for a summer, which was interesting. That's a production unto itself. It's like a state. It's crazy. It's like almost like it's the closest thing you can get to a tyranny, you know,
To a
that you
what?
can get a tyranny that you can get away with. And
Yeah.
they are so powerful now. They also control Disney in The Last Jedi. I don't know if you saw The Last Jedi, have feelings about it, but I do, and I don't like it. You know, I don't like it at all. You know, anyway, that's Disney. But I used to work for them. Those people are interesting. Anyway, the spiral staircase. There's a lot of hidden caves in New England area where I'm from. There's a lot of Norse rocks and etchings and Phoenician writings. So you know for a fact that the history that Columbus discovered America is completely wrong. So
That's total bullshit. Yeah.
yeah, well, once you awaken to those facts, like history is wrong, it's going to take a while for me to find out what the truth is, if I ever know what the truth is. Socrates said that he was the wisest. Well, the oracle at Delphi said to him that he was the wisest man in the world. And he was like, I have to find the wisest man in the world, you know, because I'm not it, you know. So in that sense, you know, it's the same. But
yeah, it's fascinating. You know, they've discovered that there's an American tribe of Indians, supposed Indians, that are very Chinese looking. They speak Japanese, and they all have names like Yokohama and stuff like that. They're like, I don't know if they're Iroquois or what, but yeah, the whole history of the world that we've been presented with
is
just a complete lie.
Yeah, you were just saying about names and people, right? Like they have in Asia. Well, that's very interesting, man, because I noticed I used to go out with a Vietnamese girl, and her father was he worked in like the communist government, you know, in Vietnam. I mean, I didn't care. I was going out with her. She was nice, and you know, one thing led to another, and I ended up meeting the guy, and he, you know, really nice guy, but everybody was named Trang. You know, that's just such a common name. I saw it on a jersey the other day, I think, on like a basketball jersey. Guy had Trang. I was like, dude, that's a Vietnamese. Like, you know, I thought it was shit. You think with names, I love names, you know. Names to a lot, you know.
They really do. You know, yeah, I was just contemplating the name Young, but as I did that, I was also contemplating the name Brandon, and this just came came to me. Of course, Brandon, we know about Brandon, the many things Brandon can make, but it's also brand on, and I can't really reveal the secret. Yeah. But the word O-N, I was in one secret society, and they told me at the very bottom, the word is on. The word is on.
Nice. Yeah.
On.
Yep. My middle name is Marshall, so I always saw that as Mars Hall.
I can't believe it. Yes, it's so obvious.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that was after reading Manly P. Hall, and which was quite a few years ago. But I always saw it as Mars Hall. And at any university, there's always a Mars Hall. There's something to do with that. You know what I mean? Have you ever noticed that? There's always a Mars Hall.
No, but you're right. You're right.
You know, at maybe not every university, but a lot of them. You know, there's a Mars Hall. Anyway, I just think that it's interesting because Mars represents the martial, sort of warlike, masculine properties.
And their color is red.
Red.
Blood red, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow, that's interesting. That was the color of that deity.
The color of the what?
That was the color of the entity that.
Oh yeah, that jinn or whatever it was.
Yeah. So maybe it was masculine energy.
This is very interesting because
sexual.
It put a sexual energy on you, or
maybe,
or it gave you a dream,
red,
a sexual dream.
Red is that chakra, right? Red
it's an activation color for sure. When I had this 2.5 long hour interview with Christopher Jacobs the other day, well, my girlfriend came into the interview, and there's a deal where one of the videos is just her, and I'm there too, but her face is blocked off to protect.
Oh, okay.
To
No,
protect
no
her
wife
identity.
on the show.
And let me tell you, because
That's
one
good.
of our friends, or two different psychics I know, diagnosed her as having a problem right now. And so she brought it up to Christopher Jacobs, and he described the exact same thing that these other two ladies were describing, and that is
Really?
a crack in her head with some black fluid or something like that coming out of it, and entities attached right there, like sucking the juice out of her head or whatever.
Like a scuttler for real.
That's it. Yeah, that's what. When they said that, I was thinking Scuttler.
They said that too.
No. I was thinking Scuttler because you and me have been talking about Scuttlers recently. Miles Johnson. Yeah. It's all these correspondences. You know what I mean?
Dude, people don't realize, like, you got to look up Tim Refat, and because no one's heard of him, but someday. Have you? Yeah, he's on Rent sometimes, and I randomly heard him deconstructing a Katy Perry video, and it was very good. And he knew a lot about the mid Golden Dawn tradition. A lot I knew just from going over the cave, but it was funny at the same time. And he's from England, And so I tuned in. I went to his website, which is just incredible. I mean, it's just like The Last Jedi. He has all these services which you can buy for whatever amount of money. Pretty expensive, but there's an MP3 to go along with every service, and there are upgrades as well. And he's like the leading authority on remote viewing in England, and he sees England as being he's a Sisyphus of the Illuminati. He claims he's the Sisyphus and or whatever, however you say it. And he was adept major, adept minor, all that stuff, right? So he was this. He says that, and he was taught by MI6 Colin Bloy, who was an ex-MI6 agent who came across a Grail stone and all these things, and taught him all the mystery schools. And now he's implementing his psychic warfare with his crystals and all these things that he does. Now it's interesting with Tim Refat. What were you saying right before that? So I can.
Well, we were talking about these. Tim Refat. Yeah, and I've heard of him. He's associated with David Icke's channel. That guy who works for David Icke's channel has interviewed Tim Refat, or he talks.
No, Jeff Rentz. Yeah, Jeff. Rentz.
No, not Jeff Rentz. It's an English guy. But anyway, how we got onto that was the entity attachment or the Scuttler.
Oh, so yeah, thank you. So Tim Refat talks about these entities. He says if you look at reality has a black fabric laid over it, an invisible black fabric laid over it, and what these entities do, and this black fat fabric goes with like your house or with any building, and that's why Masonic monuments are so important, because they have this energy and they conduct this energy and they attract these entities. The energies of these statues that have a real power, true power there, and people think they're concrete, but really they're like these supercharged for the initiate. They're supercharged, not even just the initiate.
They're like crystals. They're like orgone or something.
Right. People should with this exact reverence, and they have that if you really let yourself into it. Like, the Lincoln Monument's one of them. When you go up to the Lincoln Monument, you look up, that dude is huge. And he's sitting there. That is the judge right there. That is the judge, right?
That's Saturn, right?
It's Saturn, exactly, man. And DC is laid out exactly in that classical fashion, too. And I love DC. I used to go to DC ever since I was a kid. Smithsonian, run around there in the park, in the mall, all around there. And I've been to the White House a few times and stuff like that. It's a fantastic city of secrets. It really is. And not just DC, but the surrounding area, like Virginia and all that. Very interesting, man. A lot goes on, backroom shady deals there. Same in any city, but especially DC, for sure.
Yeah.
But anyway, so these scuttlers, dude, what they do is they attract themselves to these buildings and these nodal points, I call them, or Tim Refat calls them to that too. These kind of lymph nodes, your body has lymph nodes in them?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so you gotta, and there's some back here on your armpit and stuff like that. So these entities will attach through that, you call it the 670 matrix. And it's kind of gruesome, but basically they suck the energy. They stay attached to an entity. It doesn't matter if it's a human entity or if it's an animal entity, because it can happen to cats and it can happen to dogs and actually it can happen to goldfish. Some people say definitely lizards too. I would say nothing living is immune to this. But so these scuttlers supposedly suck off the living, what they call the bioplasm of that energy makes. You know, in the scene in the Matrix where Keanu Reeves wakes up, like and that like robot comes up and is like, "What's up?" You know, it's like like and he gets out of the Matrix and he's bald, and you know how he wakes up and he's in like that hive, like that never-ending field of people in just cocoons, you know, for their whole lives. Anyway, that fluid that he's in, I think, represents the bioplasm that we produce, and that's what's being harvested by those matrix entities, dude. That's it. That is it. That is it. That's exactly correct.
I agree.
And they even got the color right. They got the color right. They got the consistency right, because it's kind of it's a very gooey plasma. And the dark side of this, and Miles hasn't heard about this yet, so you know, if he ever wants to talk about it, he can. But I'm the only person I know that's mentioned this. Is that's the natural bioplasm. The negative scientific bioplasm is the black goo.
Yeah,
and that
goo. It's goo versus goo. There's the goo from outer space. Right. It's the intrusive goo, and then I've now discovered. I think that our Earth, the planetary Earth mother, the planetary animal mother, Sophia, who is the living embodiment of this planet, she produces her own goo, and so it's literally a battle of goo versus goo.
You're right, man. You can see it that way, right?
And another conclusion I've come to with this black goo, because we know that the ancient sorcerers were involved with it. It was the original internet. In other words, you're a sorcerer in France, and I'm a sorcerer in Germany. Well, right. We immerse ourselves in the black goo, and then we're talking telepathically over hundreds of miles, getting reports of enemy troops and shit like that.
Interesting. I didn't even think about that.
It's a communication device. The black goo, yeah.
Yeah,
and
interesting.
That's why the occult and spycraft they're one and the same.
Yeah.
They are one and the same.
Yeah, nowadays, yeah, for sure, yeah, and they were then. I mean, I think and Tim Refat, he's in that tradition from John Dee, who was, you know, 007, the eyes and ears for the Queen and all that, and that's why to this day, if you look at the Sean Stone, you familiar with Sean Stone, BuzzFeed? All right, he does a lot of interviews with people, so do I, and Sean's a good guy and everything like that. But he did an interview with Aquino, Michael Aquino, and in that interview, the thumbnail for that is I think a photo of Aquino with Set next to him, and then on this side is the Queen Elizabeth I, and you're thinking, what does Queen Elizabeth I have anything to do with any of this? It's because of the British tradition of magic is so venerated. Like the empire, the capital of magic really is England, and that's why Harry Potter's there and everything. In India, I mean, India is very strong. There's different strengths all around, but in America, New York, that's interesting too, because you got, you know, Crowley going to New York and all that around the same time as Fantastic Beasts and then the movie. But anyway, from Merlin, I would say, to John Dee and people like that, all the way through to even some Catholic saints, and all the way through to today, you know. So so you look at, you know, that's why like every court had their magician. My great grandfather, Francis Young's name was, no, Sir Francis Bryan was his name.
O'Brien.
And it's in a book. Not O'Brien, but Bryan.
Bryan. Sir Francis Bryan.
It was yeah, it changed, right? But O'Brien. How do you know that? How do you know about O'Brien?
No, I'm way into etymology and names. I'm fixing to drop a bomb, dude. Based on what you're saying.
All right, well, hold that thought, please, okay. Because guess what? Like, I'm related to O'Brien. Like, that's my uncle. Like, and he died, but he was a really nice guy, and he was a hitman. So, I mean, you can look him up in Wikipedia. Look up Gordon O'Brien. Look up Gordon O'Brien, not the folk singer. He is the American mafia guy or mob man or whatever it's American hitman or whatever it's.
So did he get busted or something? They found out that he had done the crimes?
No, he died in jail. So I guess that's what it says.
Well, you know,
but he used to drive like 3 Corvettes. You know what I mean? Like,
that's kick ass. Yeah, organized crime has a big part to do in all this.
Yeah. Okay. So Sir Francis Bryan. Get back. So Sir Francis Bryan is when he was to Henry Tudor, who was Queen Elizabeth I's father. He was his like confidant and best friend and advisor. He did poetry. He did like he was into languages and stuff like the same thing I am. And music. He wrote music and like all this different thing. In fact, what is King Henry known for? You know,
debauchery, being big and fat and partying a lot, having different wives, he killed his wives,
killing his wives. So like, you know, basically cut off his Anne Boleyn's head and all these different people because they wouldn't give him an heir to the throne.
And it was really his fault.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Right. So anyway, so they wanted the same woman. Now, if anybody wanted the same woman, guess who got her? The king.
Yeah.
Okay. But my ancestor wanted this one particular. They both had their eye on this one woman, and my ancestor Francis Bryan. I guess it's in a book. I haven't read the book yet, though. He actually let my father, you know, or my great grandfather, or whatever, marry the woman.
He said, "Fuck it, you can have her, huh?"
Yeah.
Wow, that's cool.
So like,
that's awesome.
my father before me and my grandfather, who was a worshipful master of the New England area, and to this day, if I ever have like, I just went to a funeral. It was my great uncle's funeral, or whatever. It wasn't like a priest wasn't at the funeral or anything like that. I was expecting the priest and stuff. Got there, it's just people in, you know, different outfits, you know what I mean? Like from different mystery school, different traditions. A lot of them are Masonic because he was an old, you know, good old boy or whatever. But you know, it just shows you how ingrained it is in my family. And there was like a little breakfast after that, you know, and I'm looking around, I'm saying to myself, Freemason, Eastern Star, you know, it's a Freemason and an Eastern Star. They always get married. So I'm always getting set up with something like that, you know, which is why I think I'm attracted to witchy women or vice versa.
Definitely, without a doubt. And I've got something to say about that as well. And I also want to, this deal that you brought up about England being magic. And then I want to tell you a little bit about my name. Let me use the restroom right quick.
Yeah.
We'll just leave this on.
Hold me close and hold me close and tell me what words of love, whisper softly. Hold me close and tell me words of love, whisper softly.
All good.
Right on, man. How much longer you want to go?
Oh man, let's just keep on going unless
Got
yeah,
it, bro.
because I can get a couple episodes out of this because this is some very interesting talk, you know.
Cool, dude. Make me look good. That's all.
I will, brother.
I will. Look good, bro.
Yeah, I will,
all
huh?
Right. That's all right.
You know, so I'm really into etymology and names, and of course, almost all my ancestry being from English, Welsh, and Irish and Scottish.
Is it really?
Yeah, Mahon is a Scot name.
Yeah, of course it is. Yeah.
Well,
very famous. Yeah.
So my real name is not Ayin Thropos. My real name is Durward King Mahon. Well, my middle name, that's kind of self-explanatory, right? King. And but I found out another meaning for that just within the last year. It was kind of scary. Well, king, King, you would think, oh, that's the guy with the crown. He's got the gold, or whatever. All these, and of course, maybe that's true. But one thing that I learned this last year, or an idea that I heard, what a king really is the ultimate sacrifice.
Absolutely, 100%. Whoever you said that from, probably Jordan Peterson or something, but that's exactly right. Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Mm-hmm. Now check this out. So my name is Durward King Mahon. Now Durward is a very unusual name. It's Durward.
Yeah. Seen it, but
and so it means gatekeeper because Dur is door, and ward is like a warden of a prison. So it's a gatekeeper. But also Dur can also mean deer. So I'm also the protector of the deer.
And also, if you follow Michael Tsarion, he says that, and I've looked a little bit into it, and people get fussy about it, but I think it's true. Door is connected to druid.
Okay, now check it out. Yes, you're right, because Durward means druid.
Drawer, like when you have a drawer and a door opening.
Yeah,
that's a druid drawer.
Same thing with Durward. My name Durward. It's all the same.
There you go, man.
So my name is Druid. Really,
it's amazing.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, and I love philology. Tolkien loved philology. That's what Lord of the Rings comes from. It comes from loving names. It comes from creation like that. Like you saying, "Oh man, that's cool. I'm gonna go look into that," and then being like, "Wow, what if I named somebody?" You know what I mean? Like William Bellencourt III, or whatever, man. And then you derive the characteristics of that place, person, or thing when you're doing art. At least I do. You create the language first. And what do we read in the spiritual text? We read that language is very sacred. If you read Kabbalah, there's a very sacredness to the world. I've seen the Dead Sea Scrolls in person, Balboa Park, San Diego, right? And if you look at what the Essenes wrote for God, they characterize God as ... It would be Hebrew letter, and then when God came out, it was ... So that was Yahweh or God. Now that was explained even back then when I saw it, way back when I saw it, it sunk in that it was, if you wrote down God's name, it was almost a sin. Like it was in an act of humility. They didn't even dare to write down God's name, because in God's true name, in anything's true name, is its true nature in some way. There's a very interesting idea, and this is the logos. When you read the book of John, anybody who's a Christian out there reads the book of John. First sentence of John is, God is Christ, Christ is the logos. Or the logos is what was with Christ, okay? Mm-hmm. The logos is language. It goes all the way back to the fall of Babylon. And
it's the word.
It's the word, yeah. Spoken word, but it's more than that, too. It's also mathematics and, intellectual capacity. So the universal language at the Tower of Babel was probably mathematics. You know what I mean? Because that's a universal language that I can think of. And that it was scientific production and stuff like that. So it's interesting. Fall Atlantis, or whatever you want to call it, or some cataclysm. But yeah, man, it's
Mathematics could be one of a triune, one of a three-part system, like what Swerdlow says. He says it's all archetype, tone, and color. And tone,
really, yeah.
Tone, that's frequency, that's numbers.
Yeah, I agree with that premise. I haven't actually as far as Stewart goes, like, I haven't read much of his personal work. I've read Peter Moon's work with the Montauk Project and not just Peter Moon, but I'm forgetting his name. I was supposed to go see him up in upstate New York. Preston Nichols is a gentleman's name. Preston Nichols, and he was there at the Montauk experiment, and he and Peter Moon put out a series of books for people who don't know, young kids, or whatever. There are, a set of really good books that you should read called the Montauk Experiments.
I've read one of Peter Moon's books.
Have you really? Really?
Oh yeah, no, I know who he is. I know who Preston Nichols is. I know the whole narrative.
I'm sure that doesn't surprise me now, but like, yeah, a lot of people, some people haven't, some people are. It's good because like Stranger Things, the Netflix show Stranger Things was called Montauk. It was originally called Montauk. I mean, a town with a power plant and these freaky psychic things going on. I mean, it was called Montauk by the creators. They're hip to all this stuff. They watch the same YouTube videos that you and I watch. They are our audience. They are conspiracy theory minded.
Who does this? Who watches our videos and stuff?
I would say the writers of Netflix's Stranger Things.
Oh yeah, for sure, yeah.
And by what I mean by us, I mean they might come across you for the title, or I'm talking about the wider people who are talking about this, dude. Hopefully they'll find the truth, and hopefully they'll find some reasonable minds enough where they can be part of the community in a big way or whatever and do their own thing. Because there are people from all different stripes in this paranormal consciousness health movement, that amalgamation that this is now. Those used to be separate things, if you remember. There was health, there was technology, you know what I mean? There was like
UFOs and Bigfoot used to be two separate subjects.
Exactly.
And they would fight you if a UFO guy would fight you if you ever brought up Bigfoot and vice versa. That's what it used to be. Exactly. And now we learn that Bigfoot comes out of a UFO sometimes.
Well, yeah, that's what I've heard. I mean, one of the arguments for Bigfoot I've heard is that he's an interdimensional, an interdimensional being. So that to me explains that there's never been, any, not just skeletons, but I'm talking like areas where they've walked or, food and things like that. I have watched Joe Rogan on this, and Bobcat Goldthwait made a really interesting documentary on all that. Some people can say that he was against it, but I think he still believes in Bigfoot, and you should keep an open mind to everything, I think. Unless you've personally experienced it, even so, not every time is going to be exactly the same. That's kind of like part of our pattern of thinking that gets thrown off, But, yeah. But you were talking about a sacrifice. The king has sacrifice. Let's get back to that. The king. Now you talk about that. Doesn't that explain so many rituals too? Like how somebody has to sit in place of the king when their king needs to be sacrificed. If the land isn't good, the king. You will see a perfect explanation of that if you read Lord of the Rings, because there's King Theoden and King Denethor. King Theoden he has like a pretty big kingdom or whatever, but it's not as big as Gondolin, which is kind of like a Rome. And I'm gonna whatever Tolkien there is out there, but the Rohirrim, the riders of Rohan, the guys with the horses, are the Anglo-Saxons, the old British we're talking about Proto-Celtic history. So that is the Anglo-Saxons if they had horses, because everybody in 1066 attributes the Norman conquest to the fact that they had horses. So if the British had horses, they might have won. That's why there isn't coherent British history and mythology for England, like Tolkien was trying to do. Anyway, there's a king of Rohan, and I don't know if you've seen the movie, but there's a part where Gandalf goes up to this mead hall. It's a mead hall like you find in Beowulf, or you find in, I think, Viking mythology has a mead and so on. Thor drinks mead. Mead is great. It's made from honey. It's and the honey is a sacred plant as well.
And the bee is too.
And the bee is exactly the hive, exactly right. So If you go in to the meat hall, and Gandalf, they know that Theoden has been possessed by an evil spirit, a demon, basically. And he's been possessed and taken advantage of by this worm tongue guy. He's whispering like a snake in his ear. And he's looking at his daughter all creepy and all that, ever since she was a young girl and all this stuff you find out. Very subtle stuff. And anyway, the point is that the land's in decay. Everybody's sick. There's depression. The kingdom is just bad. It's falling over like a winter, okay? And you see him, and he's just pale, and he can't even move, and Gandalf's trying to wake him up. And at one point, Gandalf uncloaks himself, and I think Gandalf the White or something, but he has a staff in his hand. And he basically performs kind of like, it's not an exorcism, but something like that. Like most people would associate that with an exorcism, where the demon was Saruman, who was working through him. So he was actually possessed. And as soon as he's like, and how he unpossesses him is fascinating. He says, my lord, if you would just look over to the window and see the land, because he's very despairing. He says, my land, my people, everybody's dead, everything's horrible, my son died, everything is just terrible. And Gandalf says, look at your land. And he says, well, it's not that bad. And you know what's interesting? Because that's your name. He says, your hands would feel so much better if it just grabbed thy sword. And he goes to reach for his sword, and it's not there. Wormtongue, the guy who's been whispering in his ear the whole time, turns out stealing everything from everybody, all these little collectibles, and everybody had something missing. He had it. They throw him out, King Theoden takes his sword, he holds the sword, he becomes alive. Joseph Campbell, Carl Jung called that, if you're a male and you're holding a sword, you're activating the anima. If you're a female, or is it animus? No, if you're a male, you're activating anima. If you're a female, you're activating the animus, I think. Maybe it's vice versa, I have to look. But the point is, one's masculine, one's feminine, whatever. When you hold a sword, you will get in touch with that. And there's something, hold that, man. I mean, you gotta hold. That's why, people hold staffs and stuff. So, but, point is, man, it's like, won't that change it? Doesn't it change it? Makes you feel different, And so, anyway, the point is like, Tolkien had a lot of truth in there. And, something Max believed in a lot. A lot of people know. So I'm a big Tolkien nerd, so I'll never really bring him up somehow in the conversation. But Nate, so that I was talking about kingship, and because you were talking about what a king means, and so what happens after Theoden is exorcised or whatever, that demon from him? He gets younger, the land is prosperous, the people are happy, everything's great and golden, and in fact, the daisies bloom, and daisies is a word, is an Anglo-Saxon word, daisy, and it meant the sun. So daisy means the sun. So you can see that in different allegories where they use the name Daisy for a character. If you watch a TV show or a movie, and you see Daisy, know that is a word for the Anglo-Saxon sun god.
I did not know that. I didn't, and that's good because it's all solar worship. It's all solar.
Yes.
I suspect that one of the big, Masonic secrets or whatever is that the sun is actually some interdimensional gate where we all came here somehow through the sun.
Yes, man. I was like, have you seen? There was a great series on that. It's called The Forever Time. It's called The Knowledge of the Forever Time by, I can't remember the gentleman's name right now, but it's almost like it's an internet series. I'll have the new link. I'm sorry, I can't think of his name, but he talks about Helios, the sun. Helios. The Greek name is Helios. If you look at photos of the sun, there are these these gaps. Well, they're kind of small gaps where it's just, you can look basically straight through because it's a gas, and so it doesn't have solidity. So there are parts sometimes where you can look kind of straight through the thing. You can see blackness on the other side of it,
Yeah.
So it's not what that is. Dude, those things are huge. You think about how big the sun is in comparison to Earth. You could easily, in some of those holes, fit entire Earths. Like, you know what I mean? Now imagine spaceships, or not just spaceships, just consciousnesses or whatever you want, something that we don't even know of, seeping in through that as a gateway. Just think of that as a gateway to something.
That's exactly what it is.
That would make sense with the chariot. That's why all the gods have to come through the sun. He says that all the gods and goddesses have to come through Helios. That's why you see in mythology Helios playing such a role as the chariot, right? And Poseidon as well in the water. Totally different thing, but fascinating, man, because it all goes back to the Greek myths, and those in the Egyptian.
And the Egyptian before that, it's all fucking Egyptian for real. Yeah, but the idea of Helios and the sun worship and sun symbols, that there was a sun before the sun we have now.
Yes.
And that sun was Saturn. Saturn.
I'm glad you said that. I was like, okay, a lot of people know that there was a sun before the sun. Was it? Yeah. Have you seen like the whole research on that? I'm sure you have, where everything was the theory that Saturn was very much closer to the Earth in proximity.
People lived in fear of the skies. They'd come out of their little hut, and the planets would be just right there.
Imagine that.
I believe that.
I believe that too. There's something.
It's the electric universe theory. The universe is not gravity and chemicals. It is those things, but it's electricity is the main thing.
I agree. It's electricity and magnetism, and that's the story. El and Ma.
Or Lucifer and Satan, or Ahriman and Lucifer. Rudolf Steiner speaks about that Jesus is like the balance point between Lucifer and Satan. You're not supposed to hate them. But Lucifer is electricity, and Ahriman or Satan is electromagnetism.
Yeah, Jesus is more like, Jesus is, that's why they call Jesus shocking and all that stuff. I guess so, because I think, people have their own interpretation, but I always thought it was, if you really understand what he's saying, he's making extraordinary claims that if anyone started saying at a New Age conference, and if they weren't a cute girl, people would be like, what? You see girls all the time say, I'm a goddess, I'm a goddess, I'm a goddess. What if a guy went around saying, I'm a man, I'm a man, I'm a man, I'm a god, I'm a god, I'm a god. It would get people.
It would be weird, yeah.
You're pretty conceited, you know what I mean? Unless you're
you'd get in a fight.
Yeah, right. You'd think so, but in India, it's a totally different story. So. But with Christ, you talk about him being the balance. Yeah, he's the balance that says, this is what I guess, is that you mentioned, I think, hate and love or something like that. Jesus said that you love everybody, man, even your haters, and I see a lot of hypocrisy. Yeah.
Hating what?
Anything, man. It could be any type of hate, hating you personally, your enemies, like the state, or
If you hate something, you're putting your attention on it. You're feeding it.
Exactly. You get it, man. But not too many people. It's one thing to say that; it's another thing to practice that too, which is also part of the message. A lot of people don't understand, man. You gotta look at the Bible mystically. If you read the Bible mystically and not listen to what other people tell you, don't listen to what I tell you. Pick up a good copy. Maybe compare it with a study Bibles or something like that. It doesn't have to be the Bible. It could be any sacred text. Start with something. It could be a comic book, man. Then just, look for the words and I think follow your heart, man. I wish people were just more biblically literate. That's all. Because I see slander all the day. People say, start off YouTube videos with a Bible quote, you know what I mean? And it's okay, well, that's pretty deep, but how is that in context? What does it mean in the overarching themes? How does it relate to yada yada? No, it's basically exactly their own opinion. You know what I mean? It just happens to be. So I get a little tired of that, but you don't do that stuff.
No, so I don't. Good. And, I'm not going to say that I'm conflicted about the Bible or Christianity. Because I'm a big fan of Rudolf Steiner, and who's a mystic Christian, and everything. And one thing I've got to learn about Hermeticism and the occult, or the people that go around in black robes, and that other people think they're Satanists. First of all, most of these people laugh at the idea of Satan. I'll just start laughing like I would have maybe even just a couple of years ago. But another thing I've learned, and this is going to a bunch of rituals and stuff, they believe in Jesus.
Yeah, of course.
Even the ones that hate Christians and all that stuff. If you go high enough, they enact. I mean, we had a deal. It wasn't even a ritual. It was like it was like a Ulyssian play up at the lodge, and the guy was up there like a pharaoh, dressed as an Egyptian. And then they came in the second act. They opened up the curtain. He was on a cross, crucified.
Yeah. That's the thing about that.
These are people that supposedly hate Jesus.
Right.
So.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Like, and beyond that. Even if you're an objective observer, that's why I don't believe certain people, they're just saying they don't believe in the historical Jesus, because they're so smart, man, in other things. I don't see how they can take an objective look without having a presupposed notion, an already formed conclusion, because you had so many, because of the horrible press or the experience that you had. I'm not discounting that. I'm just saying take a look at the collected scholarship. It is collected scholarship. The only reason why some scholarship was undertaken was to preserve those stories and to preserve those books and to preserve those collections, man. That's why we have the knowledge, and we know for a fact that there was a Jesus Christ. I mean, we're talking thousands of different sources from all around the world within 100 years. You know what I mean, man? Like, that's man. Like, but then you have somebody deny Christ, and then in the next sentence they'll say, well, Thoth said, the Atlanteans said this and that. And it's like, well, what's the historical evidence for Thoth? And somebody asked that question, and they proved that even the documents that were claimed to be these ancient emerald tablet transcription were actually no earlier than like the 1800s. You know what I mean? And that would have been tantamount to, if you're a magician at that time, you thought those things were ancient. You know what I mean? You were just hearing about it. You were lucky if you had that. But it turned out to be a prank. Some probably from Freemasonic jester, made a prank of that. Because the jester, you remember, you gotta, if you looked at The Crown, the movie, the TV show The Crown, how a court works, that's exactly how life is reflected as well, and even spirituality. You know what I mean? That's another thing about kingship and stuff like that, and like the court. It's all about the court, and like who are you're out. You're the king. Who's the queen? Who's the
Joker?
The jester. And the one I was gonna say is that the Joker or the jester is the only one who is allowed to criticize the king.
Yeah, and he's also the fool, and he's the harlequin.
Right. That's exactly right, man.
But now, can you see with my YouTube channel, I'm kind of playing the fool, so to speak. In other words, with my wild antics, I give people the possibility to discount me and say, no, I don't like this guy. Look, he's throwing shit around and acting crazy. That's the safety valve. It protects me too.
That's smart, dude.
I'm that crazy guy.
Smart.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I always knew there's more to you, man. I never judge. I think you put on a great show, man.
Thank you.
I love it. I mean, and I think part of that is you. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
like,
for sure.
But like, I know what you're saying. Like you can back this up with evidence. It's not just some things. It's obviously for fun what you do. Right. Some of them are cool videos. Like I remember one time it was just like a song. It was like a rage song, but it was like pictures of you with like different colors and like it was badass.
Oh,
it was pretty cool. It's fun.
That was a ritual I did.
Yeah, whatever you're doing it for a ritual or whatever, man. It is what it is. But you could get from the idea from that, like, oh, he's just a self-absorbed jerk or something like that. You know what I mean? Like,
oh, they come out and say that.
I'm sure you've seen comments like
that,
probably.
Yeah.
I think I have. But my comments are always nice. I was supportive, man, and because I know that you're smart, man. I always knew it. But yeah, just even talking with me right now, man, you're more than keeping up, man. It's pretty good. I'm very impressed.
Thank you, man. Impressed. I appreciate that, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, what else?
It's it's a very interesting time where all these shows are going. Like for instance, they had the money pulled out, the rug pulled out from underneath them about 2 years ago with all this money from sponsors for YouTube.
Right, right. Was that 10 years ago? Yeah. Well, recently was the apocalypse, right? Is that what you're talking about? Or you mean 10 years ago?
Oh, the
On
reason
YouTube?
on YouTube. In other words,
Yeah,
the more viewers you used to have, they would put ads on there on your page, and then you didn't have control of it or anything, but you'd get a check every month.
right,
And even
right.
like people like Josh Reese, even Miles Johnson to this day still gets a couple $100 a month. When he used to get a lot
Yep.
more.
Right. Well, I know a few YouTubers, and they called it the apocalypse for a reason, man. Because some people, other than a hand-picked, for no one really knows why, I won't say why, these people are hand-selected. I think it's for political correctness a lot of the time, and that's being unbiased. On the political spectrum, I don't think you can categorize me one way or the other. Having so much experience in that world, which is another whole thing I could get into.
What world? What world? Repeat the word.
The political spectrum.
Oh, political. Okay, got it.
Yeah, so like left and right.
Right. Yeah.
These little divide things. Yeah, man, I used to work for the Democratic National Committee, Republican Party in Massachusetts, things like that. But yeah, that's just kind of a segue. What was that? What were we talking about?
Well, just how all this stuff kind of ties together.
Yeah, no, but we were talking about.
But the YouTube the ad apocalypse.
Oh yeah, the ad apocalypse. I'm sorry. Yes. So you notice that they select YouTube selects like 5 or 6 or maybe 10, whatever, people who are gonna have like over 10 million followers. Okay, or over 1 million. Let's say they keep them within. That's a lot, but that's still a lot. But that's a lot of money. YouTube is a failing business. Okay, they have to keep building giant buildings that are farms long of servers just to house this stuff that people get every day and upload their crappy video for whatever reason. You know what I mean? It could be a mistake and they have it on board for like 5 hours. You know what I mean? Like I did one time. And then YouTube has to fill that space. You know what I mean? That they don't get paid for that. It's interesting, man. But how they can get paid is for the advertising. And what happened was, I know somebody. They went from, let's just say, as an example, $3,000 a week, okay, which isn't bad, to something like $1,000 a week, if that. It was like, and went down from there. It was like, now they're at like $600 maybe.
And the people that got hit the hardest are the people in the conspiracy genre.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, because think about how different our genre is. Everybody, in every other genre, it's okay to make money. But in the conspiracy genre, we're looking for the bad guys. Well, what do the bad guys all have in common? Money. Right. They've got money. So if you're making a dime off of selling a conspiracy, it's like you're no good. And I refute that. I'm done. I'm setting a new example that it's okay to pay your rent, stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely, man. And it should be because, like, yeah, I know. Ask for money, it's fine. Just don't be a false guru or something.
Yeah, but see, I'm not going to be asking for money. I'm not doing that donation shit. I'm selling products that are relevant to my content.
Here?
Yeah, I've got one of the top marketing teams in the world working with me.
Are you going to do anything in the supplement realm?
Yes, and as a matter of fact, we're going to be selling Patrick Flanagan's supplements. That he's the guy who did the Neurophone, and he's also he had Pyramid Power, and he was when he was 11 years old in the 1962. He entered a science contest in Houston, Texas, and he won it. He built a device that located the location of every intercontinental ballistic missile on the planet Earth.
Wow.
He logged all of the data. He won the contest, and the next Monday at school, the principal came on the speaker and said, "Patrick Flanagan, come to the office. The Pentagon is on the phone."
Yeah, I believe it. Wow, that's hardcore. Wow. I bet
this guy is still alive today. They let him sell his Neurophone now, which he couldn't sell it for like 30 years.
Really?
It's a deal that you can plug in like lessons in English or something like that, and it goes through your skin. We got a thing like a Dolphins have, like a little saccule back here, where we can take in sound through our skin. And so while you're doing other activities, you can learn shit. It's like super learning. I'm gonna get one and just become like a fucking genius.
Wow. Wait, so you absorb it through your skin? You're saying like
Yeah, just like whales and dolphins. See, we're related to the cetaceans. And I've had a guy reach out to me who they wrote a book about. This is the guy who at the
John
university.
Lilly?
Oh no! But John Lilly was friends with Dr. Patrick Flanagan, and I know about the Lily wave and everything like that.
Yeah.
But that's mind control is real. It's there is no it's for sure real. But this one guy who reached out to me back in the early '70s, they were studying him and a dolphin, a free wild dolphin out there in Florida, and the guy fell in love with the dolphin, and he had sex with the dolphin.
What?
Out in the ocean. He wrote a book about it, and this guy might be.
No way. All right, what's the book?
Well, I don't know. I haven't read it yet. There's so much. There's so much going on. But no, I've been in contact with the guy. He might be appearing on my show.
Name? Yeah, that's cool. What's his name?
I have to look it up on my email.
All right. Well, but I want to look that up because I would love to read that book.
I wrote on dolphins 4 years ago in Cancun. Out in the ocean.
Yeah, I mean, I pet dolphin. I have a photo of me somewhere petting dolphin, but I did it at, unfortunately, SeaWorld, whatever. But it was a private area or whatever, but there was a person there. There was like two people there that were watching the dolphin. And everybody points to that obscure law that you have to, if you're going to pet a dolphin, you have to be under supervision, right?
That's a law.
There is that law. That is real. But John Lilly was fascinating. He would shoot himself up with psychedelics and swim with these dolphins. And dolphins have their own. They play. I guess they play like 70-80% of the time. That they're alive.
Well,
Yeah. So like yeah.
These dolphins that I rode with in Cancun, it was a tourist type deal, and they were captive dolphins, but they were out in the ocean. But they were very well kept for. But if you took the biggest package, you could ride on the dolphins if you could, like maybe we can pull it up. But there's a deal where you stand up on top of them.
Yes.
And they had me go, and so I swam right out there. I volunteered to go first, and I swam further than they wanted me to because I figured the further away I swam, the longer I'd get to ride the dolphins. And they're like, no, stop everything. Well, anyway, so it was Romulo, and I can't remember the girl's name. But it was a male and a female dolphin. Well, I did it wrong. They came up underneath me, and I did it wrong, and she didn't catch my foot. And I rode Romulo. I rode one dolphin on his back all the way back, and the trainer was yelling to the other trainers, "Look at this! Look at this!" I had never seen anyone do that. And I've got pictures of it. I've got pictures of on Facebook. That's what my profile pic. Yeah.
Oh, I gotta see. You gotta send me that. That's amazing. That's amazing. I've never. That's incredible. What does that feel like? I don't know.
Oh, dude, it was just one of the.
Was it keeping the balance and stuff?
Yes. What it was is towards the end they were telling me to jump off of it. That's how good I was on it.
Really? You kept on going?
I could have gone forever, dude. And it was strong. I mean, it was huge dolphin.
That's awesome. That is amazing. That's amazing. I've never had that happen, but I'm really interested to know about a person that actually would fall in love with one because I don't know if you've seen that movie Tusk or read any H.P. Lovecraft or anything like that. But
I love Lovecraft.
In Dagon or Cthulhu, the Call of Cthulhu, or actually Shadow of Innsmouth, talks about that being a very strong feeling within humanity, or especially men, would be to go into. There's a story of this one man who goes. He's researching the heritage of his grandmother, and he goes into the town of Innsmouth, and it's a very shady town and whatever. And people have a certain look to them, and he notices that the Unitarian churches and the Catholic churches have been taken over by the esoteric order of Dagon, right? Even the Freemasonic.
Are you talking about the strange case of Charles Dexter Ward?
Yes, I love that story. Yeah, that was like.
Is that what you're talking about, though? Or is that a different?
No. This is the Shadow over Innsmouth.
Oh, okay. My bad.
Yep. But so anyway, he's researching his grandmother, who he doesn't know, was very mysterious, and he finds when he gets to the town, there's a museum and there's a crown there of somebody that used to wear it. It was a beautiful, like a tiara from a woman, tiara of a queen, some kind of queen. And he's like, ask the museum lady, what's that for? Who used to wear that? Well, that used to belong to this woman, yada yada yada. And he's researching about his grandmother. He goes around and he finds out that what happens is every night around I don't know, 9, 10 o'clock, 12 o'clock, full moon, whatever. I don't think it's full moon. I think it's every night. These people just get up and mindlessly they have a ritual in the water, underneath the water, in a cave underneath the water. Okay, and they all worship this thing, and it's like this cult, and anyway, and it's got like there's a fish smell and all this like this very, and he sees this happen. He sees this, he's watching it, and he's like freaking out about it. He's like, I gotta get out of here. This is creepy. I knew something was happening. But as he's about to leave, he ends up jumping in to the water and taking part in the ritual himself because it was that strong. That's the pull to a woman is that strong so anyway, especially aquatic creature, and he finds out that he sees what it's basically a walrus or a dolphin, whatever you want to call it. It was described that way. A fish-like human being, kind of. With a crown, with that tiara that he saw in the museum, and he found out that his grandmother used to wear the tiara too, and she was the priestess, the high priestess of this Dagon cult. Okay, man. So like, it's insane. It's really cool. I'm very interested in that. So
I resonate with Dagon big time. I used to think I was like a reincarnation of Dagon for some reason.
Really?
A long time ago. I got to change the battery on my DSLR.
Oh yeah. All right, man.
Just take a second.
All right.
All right, we got that done.
All right, here we go. Yep, I'm plugging in too. Cool, man. This is fun, man. What else we should talk about? What else we talk about?
Oh, man.
Good, man. We brought topics that I think CW Chance will like. I think some people are gonna like this. This would be good. Talk straight up to Miles Johnson. Went over to Nephilim. Talked about a lot of stuff, man. James Casbolt, Ultraman, Multiversity, Simon Parks, everybody, everything.
The
Mormons, Freemasons.
So they have, the Mormons, they have, and the head guy was a Freemason, but, they have this knowledge of these ancient civilizations, here in America because they own the land that these ruins are on. So they've been hiding this shit for a long time. But
wow,
and you know what? Another reason they're so powerful, just like the Catholic Church, we have the idea of these nations where they have standing armies on the earth, but there are groups that are not governments that own entrances to the underground hollow earth, and the Mormons are one of them. Salt Lake City, they have what they can. They got the shit.
I would be surprised.
They got the shit. I would not
be surprised, dude. And I find if somebody's Christian in this field, let's call it the alternative media field, most likely they're Mormon. Okay, I find a lot of Mormons. They have a very interesting Masonic Christian tradition with the temple, and they are super powerful. They are pretty powerful.
Very rich too.
They have a secret White House across the street from the White House that's made up exactly like the Oval Office, and people know about the temple recommend and all that. I mean everything. I mean people have exposed it, but like at the penalty of their lives, because I wouldn't mess with the Mormon Church, man. I mean they're old school Scientology. You know what I mean? Like people think Scientology is bad. No. Mormons are much more powerful, and they're really nice people. I have a professor, a good friend. Dr. Jason, who, old friend, really great guy, smart guy too. Professor of Tolkien stuff. But hold on a second. Oh, you got a vape? You vape too?
Yeah.
I just got a vape pen.
Oh, really? Kick gas. Yeah, I vape. what you said just it brought up another subject in my mind. But you know these giants, that was just recorded history. You know, there was an emperor of Rome, Emperor Maximinus, who was 8.5 feet tall, and he ate 40 pounds of meat and 14 bottles of wine at every sitting.
What?
This is recorded history. This is recorded history.
Wow, I skipped over that chapter. Jeez.
Yeah, well, they don't teach that one in college.
Right.
But the thing is, they can't throw it out with everything else. So what they do is they say, oh, well, it's exaggeration. He was such a great leader. They exaggerated his size and everything to show how important he was. I mean, they've got a lie for everything. They've got fucking lie for everything.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for sure, some rulers are short. You know what I mean? Like Napoleon was famously short. Abraham Lincoln was regular being, but you'd think if there were a giant emperor, they'd know about it, man. That's like an Andre the Giant.
That was in 325 AD. That was in recent history.
Oh, wow, really?
That's yeah. You can look it up on Wikipedia right now.
All right, wow.
He was a rude shepherd boy, and the Roman legion was coming through there, and they were astounded at his size. And so the general had him wrestle his best men. He defeated 6 of his best men. Then he outraced his fastest horses. Then he came back and defeated some more men and did other feats. He could knock a donkey out with one punch. He wore his wife's bracelet on his pinky.
That's hilarious. Okay, that might be a myth, maybe, but that's hilarious, dude. Oh my God, maybe not. Wow, that's funny.
Well, check out this.
Dude, I have a Roman. By the way, hold on, real quick. I have a Roman. Show you too. I'll give you probably the most sacred object I have with me, on me.
That's it.
Okay, this comes from the time of Christ. This was probably made before the time of Christ, but it was definitely worn during the time of Christ. And in Rome, in ancient Rome, basically the families distinguished themselves by their jewelry. And the jewelry will signify this or that thing. And it just so happens that this thing are different etchings in the jewelry. So it will say things like, or the jewelry itself and what it looks like. Now, a certain family, okay, or a certain sect of or class of people wore snake bracelets. Okay, not many, but you can imagine who they were. They wore snake bracelets. And you can see this in some art and stuff. And there you go, there's one. And so snake bracelet is very common. And you can see by the demarcation lines who it was by the subtle lines. And I'll show you what I mean. Let me go get them.
All right, let's check it out.
All right. All right. So I keep them. Now I used to have 2. Okay, but got them from an antique dealer in Rome that my ex-girlfriend knows, and I used to wear mine all the time. I didn't care, but one time from flying from from San Diego to Boston or LA to San Francisco, one or the other, I was going through the metal detector, and I had to take it off, and it broke. So that was one of them. But luckily, I got the other one from my girlfriend. She had one, and I had one. Now, these things I know are charged. Like, I'm talking incredibly psychically, historically, whoever owned this is something powerful. Here it is. Let's see if the camera will. See how it's a serpent?
It's an Ouroboros. It's eating its tail.
It's actually a Ouroboros. Exactly. That's what but.
What is it made out of?
Those tiny etchings there? It's just oh no.
Maybe if you had a little flashlight or something, I could see the etchings. I can't see the etchings because I think.
Yeah, very subtle. Just play it on replay, maybe. Anyway, but yeah. So they're there, just on the very top there. But what is it made out of? I'm not sure. No, I think maybe bronze. Um, I don't have no idea exactly. Maybe something different. But those are 2,000 years old. You know, at least 2,000 years old. So 2,000.
Is it Roman writing on it or
Roman, yeah.
or
Roman.
Latin, I guess, or
They think. I mean, as far as like antique dealer knows, because they always say like, well, also could have came from Greece, but you know, the fact that it was from a Roman family, then probably should be Roman. But you never know, man, because you take a risk with getting these things. So, you know.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's interesting stuff. I thought you'd like that.
Yeah, I did. And so, did you feel any energy off of it when you took it off out of the pouch just now?
Guess what, man? I broke up with her name is ex-girlfriend for a reason. And I tell you what, man, that bracelet broke probably at the right time. It was very symbolic. It ended up being very symbolic of our relationship ending.
And so there's no going back. Y'all broke away completely.
I like to think so, but you never know the future, man. You know. But
that's right. It's, you know.
I like to think so.
But you haven't like hooked up. You don't hook up with her every so often or anything like that.
Stay in touch, like with her. Maybe I'll look her up. I think she's looking me up too. She probably watch this.
Oh, watches your show.
I'm sure. Yeah. Maybe. I don't know. Who knows?
Well, you know, that's interesting that you'd bring that up and these women and everything because, you know, this is my first time, you know, doing a YouTube channel. And I've always wanted to be like a rock star or a celebrity or something like that. And, you know, that's not really what's driving this, but just the interesting thing about reaching all these people. And one thing that's happened, women have just started coming out of the woodwork.
I know it, right? You've been great with that. I mean on your channel. What's the name of your co-host with like the full hair?
That's Betty Shocker.
Betty Shocker. She is cool. I like her a lot. I think she makes great.
Everybody likes her. Yeah, she balances my energy so much. You know.
She's very smart too. Very smart. You know. And it was funny. You guys had the interview with Vinny Eastwood. You know, and she was holding her own.
Oh, she carried that. She carried that whole interview.
I know. I was like, well, she carried a little. Yeah, absolutely. She was great. So
she really was.
That's good, man.
And another thing I found out about it is when I'm working with her, I don't have to feel like I have to do all that crazy shit. You know, throwing stuff around. You know, I'm kind of
that's good. Right.
Getting away from that a little. I've had, and plus, you know, I got my hair cut. I used to have that real long hair, but I get a lot less negative comments now.
Dude, you actually. All these negative comments, I want to say, Ayin actually inspired me. Okay, all the negative comments. To the real people who can see what's going on and aren't a 10-year-old or something like that. Something you might learn something. Okay, and look, dude, this is a driven individual. This is a dude who knows discipline. You see him working out in pain. You know how hard it is when you get older to say, I'm going to go to the gym and kill myself after an 8-hour work shift or something like that when you become an adult, or if you're lucky, 8 hour. How about 12 hour, 14 hour, 16 hour, where you only get a little bit of sleep and time to eat, and you're right back to it, man. And there's no vacations because something went wrong at the house or whatever, dude. People are kept in a rabbit wheel. Ayin Thropos, on top of that, will go to the gym, get a trainer to bust out those traps, man. Get those going. You gotta get those going. You gotta get them going. Get them going.
Oh, yeah.
And he pumps me up, man. Watching him get into it makes me get into it. You know, I'll pick up my kettlebell. I'll get my kettlebell.
Yeah.
Come on. You can do more, and pushing yourself physically is the best thing to activate. Everyone talks about, the spiritual realm, and they're so unhealthy, dude. Most of the women, I mentioned Jenny Moonstone before, but she's an example of a woman who is built strong and like her spirit matches her form, basically. A lot of women claim they have the spiritual this and that. They either look starved or they're gigantic, man. Sometimes, you know what I mean? Nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying, like, listen, there's a discipline to working out, and you might be a little bit more spiritually enlightened. It might help with that at least. And it does, man. If you get yourself going, I don't care what it is, you bust a sweat a day, you open up the energy. It's like, it's like a cap on a beer. You got to open up the cap so the beer can flow.
That's right.
It's like a cap, man. And so the cool thing about being trained in martial arts as I was since I was 12 and being competitive since 14 and then going on to Kung Fu and praying mantis, northern praying mantis Kung Fu, which is a complete art with meditation and feeling the chi ball, which is something I wanted to talk to you about. If you've ever felt chi energy ball, I don't know if we got to that, but I think we did. But anyway, yeah, man, it's what was it saying? Physical. So working out will if you have that discipline to get up every day and do it, you will see changes, man. You can change your body, dude. You can change who you are, and I think you look great, dude. You look amazing. You look better than ever. I mean, you look cool with the long hair and everything, but you look proper, man. You look great. Don't listen to negative comments. That's what they're there for. Be negative.
Well, and let me tell you, dude, I crafted this thing. I wanted those negative comments. I did that.
Really?
That was all planned out. That was all planned out.
Right.
Now, interesting thing aside about this place where I work out, I go to different gyms because it's my trainer, the lady that's my trainer that, she takes me. But we've been going to the one where you see the films and stuff. It's at a place called Atomic Gym.
Well, right, since time, yeah.
That is the place in Austin. It's one of the most extreme gyms, but they're co-ed, but they also happens to be where all the special forces guys work out.
No kidding. There you go.
Yes, and so they have an Instagram account, and there's like guys whose faces are blacked out and shit like that working out, and so it's a very military vibe, and so it's just a coincidence that I'm going into this place alone, screaming at the top of my lungs. It's just weird, dude. You know what I mean?
Wow, interesting. Yeah, I mean those are intense workouts, man. You're really pushing it, man. I mean, I push myself to the point where it's a bit of a scream, but I've never had a trainer push me that hard, and I should. If I ever get a trainer again, they're going to push me that
hard, and she's a bodybuilder. I mean, I don't know if you've seen her in the pictures, but I mean, she's
nice. She has a perfect body. I'm sorry, like women want to see what a woman is. She in like the army or anything like that, or military or anything?
No,
like that?
She wasn't.
No.
She was, but before she became, now she's doing jiu-jitsu and she's becoming a champion in jiu-jitsu. But before that,
really?
She was a champion bodybuilder. But before that, she played in an orchestras going all around the world playing like the flute and stuff. Yeah, she's so focused. You know what I mean? She's totally.
She's from Texas?
Yeah.
See, man, good women are from Texas. The best women in this country, some of them anyway, from Texas.
I know it, brother.
California, found some good ones, some diamonds in the rough. New England, needle in a haystack if you're lucky, but right, especially
good looking ones, but
yeah, right. And like they open their mouth and he has the horrible accent, right? But I try to stay away from that. But yeah, man. But you look at that woman, your trainer there. That is a complete woman. That's how a woman's in shape, attractive woman's supposed to look. I mean, she doesn't have the largest breasts or whatever, but her figure, and I can tell. I'm sorry, I hate to say this on air or whatever, but you can tell a lot by a woman, or especially in a man or whatever, but especially a woman, by their ass, and that's scientific. Okay, I'm sorry, they're behind.
She's got an amazing body.
Well, you can tell a lot from that, and you can tell the difference between implants or trying to look like a Kardashian or whatever. You can tell the difference, dude, because you can see that there's hamstring muscles. You can see how big their not their thighs, their calves are, the calves, how big the bone structure is. Some women do have that bone structure where they can be that built, and be that in shape, you know. I see it, but it takes a very strong and disciplined woman, and very few and very rare. Just like with tarot divination art, you have that coach that can just do that, and Jenny Moonstone can just go like that, and Heidi Vandenberg can just pick on things, and it can just make sense right then in the moment with all these synchronicities on a level that I've never seen. And my grandmother used to be like that. Some people are super talented for something, man. But then guess what? They don't know how to sharpen a knife. You know what I mean? They don't know how to read a comic book. They don't get how to play guitar. You know what I mean? It's always a give and a take. You know what I mean? So somebody who's specialized, like smart, like Einstein, he played the violin, but guess what? He wasn't that great of it. You know what I mean? He wasn't bad, but Einstein was good at physics, you know, and he was special at that. You know, there's a certain degree of that, man. I think with when studying all these topics. But anyway, man, I think okay. So then you have that woman has like a perfect figure. And that traction, that they call it the hit. I remember looking scientifically. I was like, why am I so attracted? Like I judge almost every woman from that. I mean, not every woman like that, and there's like exceptions.
Like an archetype.
It's an archetype. You can see it in mythology. You can see it in sculpture and art from all around the world. You see the giant childbearing hips of the mother goddess. Okay. Now it's a hip to great weight. It's not just how big they have the hips, which has something to do with it, because if you were plump, it meant that you could get food, right? But the hip to waist ratio, there's a ratio.
There's a Fibonacci. She's got a Fibonacci shit going on, doesn't she?
Hell yeah, it's all directed to the
sacred geometry.
Sacred geometry governs the entire universe. You know, it is some kind of fabric of our mind. That might be the dark fabric where the Scuttlers can attach themselves to the notable points of architecture. Like, you know, if you can deflect them, but anyway, that's another topic. But
well, yeah. It's interesting. In my life, hadn't always been like this. I'd been asleep for maybe decades, but until this thing started changing about a year ago. But one thing that I do find very coincidental is, okay, my girlfriend, and she really were best friends. She's technically not my girlfriend. That's why I don't say her name on Facebook and everything. But everybody knows her, and that's why. And I have a checkered past and stuff. She's literally one of the most beautiful women in the world. Okay, and then you've seen my trainer. Okay, then the lady who's my psychic moving lady, amazingly, dude, you should see my housekeeper. I mean, dude, I'm surrounded.
Some great people. Can I tell you an Austin story? Can I tell you a story from Austin?
What about Austin?
Okay. All right, so I went to Austin one day. I was visiting a friend. She lives in Austin. Her name is Trish. She ran a few companies. All right, she's retired out there, I think. And I was visiting Trish, and this was right before Burning Man. And I saw a guy with this is before I was initiated into the mystery tradition and all that, and occult subjects and stuff like that. He was wearing a fez, you know. And I knew my grandfather wore one, and I didn't know exactly what it meant. And it was nothing too out of the ordinary. I just noticed it because what he had written on top of it, and what he wrote on top of it was virus, 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 like a human virus or whatever, you know, a cold. So, ended up going to Burning Man that year with all of us, and you know, it was one of the first nights, and a bunch of us, and we're talking about kids from Harvard, MIT, Google. These are kids that work for those big companies. They go out there. It's true. So, and I'm a normal kid. So anyway, I'm out there, and everybody rides bikes, and we go to a tent. So we're just riding a bike, and you know, I've seen all this crazy stuff, and you end up at a tent, and it's, you know, you go open up the tent. And this is in the middle of the desert, and you see a giant hookah lounge, and it's all pillows. These giant pillows just set up all this giant tent, this huge indoor tent, and it's just all pillows, perfect. And hookah stations for like people, and these people they greeted you like it was a restaurant, right? and they said, oh, let's take you over here, and they gave you mint tea, and they hooked up the incense for you, and you could have like groups of 8, up to 8 people, and so we set one up, and perfect. It was just so perfect. Like we had 8 people there. Oh no, we had it was whatever it was, but there was a group. There was a couple. There was a guy and a girl. They were off to the right, and they asked if they could come in and talk with us and stuff like that. And they were profound. And the guy, no, I swear to God, I look over. The guy's wearing a fez. Guy's wearing a fez, and it's him, and it has the virus written on the fez. And he sits down, and we're talking about this and that, the environment. My friends are like, they drove a veggie powered bus around the country. We did that like 3-4 times. It's a huge company now. But we didn't start it, but we made it into a successful thing, man. Now it's all the rage. My friend has his own business where he'll just build biodiesel awesome buses and stuff like that.
Kick ass.
Yeah, around South America, they're all over the world now, these bio buses. Anyway, so he was doing that for Burning Man and for around the country. And they were talking like, well, and he was like, I have no faith in humanity. He's like, not that I don't have faith in humanity, but they're a virus. And of course, that's why he wrote virus. Like, this is what I am. And I was like, huh. And I was feeling something strange that night. I mean, the modern day MK Ultra is Burning Man. In the sense of a ritual. Dude, you go there, listen, it's not that hard to get drugs. It's all about drugs in Burning Man. You get them right then and there, and you will have a heightened experience, sensitivity to things. And things that just happen ordinarily are just off the charts, man. So you gotta be careful of that too, because you don't want to lose your mind. A lot of people can lose their mind. Anyway, this guy's talking to me, and he's saying, so my friends are like, oh, don't worry. We're gonna save the environment because we're driving a veggie bus. And this guy from Austin was like, yeah, man, I tried that, and guess what? Those, he's like, those solar power panels, whatever that you use for your electricity, he's like, those cost more energy than they'll ever regain in energy. And he's like, and another thing is where you can get the vegetable oil, it has effects with the cows and the entire agriculture. I mean, he was brilliant, right? And they had no argument for that. And so we take off on our bikes. I'm like, all right, nice to meet you. And he gives me a big hug. His wife gives me a hug. And she has this weird look on her. She's pretty. And she has this weird look on her eye. She was blonde. And she was weird look on her eye. And she was like trying to speak to me, telepathy or something. And I was like, okay. And I looked back and I gave him a hug. And I looked at him and I looked like, he's like, you know now. That's what he said to me. He's like, you know now. And I was like, no what? And he's like, we don't have to mention it yet. And I was just like, okay. And for some reason, what was put in my head was, we're aliens, by the way. I don't know why I thought that at the time. I was like, this guy an alien, dude. This guy's freaking me out. I was stupid. I thought nothing of it. And as I looked over at his wife to be like, did you hear that? And I looked at her. She was staring intently at me, dude. It's like, whoa. I was like, okay. So we're on our bikes, and I was talking to Rashid, who's a Harvard lawyer, man. This kid is just a smart kid. We're going on our bikes, and I was like, dude, that guy was smart, wasn't he? He was interesting. I was like, yeah. Want to turn around and hang out with him a little bit more? Yeah, okay. So we turn around our bikes, and I'm talking like a minute. We're gone a minute, tops. We go back to the hookah lounge, and we see the lady, the maitre d' comes up, and she's like, can I help you? And yeah, we'd like to sit down. Where's that couple? Like, what happened to them? Where did that guy go? He had the hat on and all that. She's like, oh, no one's been here. She's like, no one's been here.
Damn, dude, that's weird.
This kid from Harvard, this very straight, narrow kid, looked at me and looked at her like, no. Like, he was with his wife, and she's like, yeah, I heard you. No, there's just been that guy over there, and that group over there. I looked at the group. It was nothing like them. So that was very strange, man.
That's fascinating. Like Check this out, Brandon, and this has never happened before. It's saying right here, it says your disk is almost full, save space by optimizing. That's fine. I'm not worried about that. What I'm worried about is if we don't hang up right now, that the file will somehow be lost. But let me call you back in 5 minutes. Just give me a time.
Sure?
Yes. No, I want to continue
All right,
this.
man.
All right.
Why don't we make it 15 so I can?
Okay, I will, brother.
Get
I will.
somebody.
Yeah, and I'll eat up too. We'll hit it again. All right, man.
All right, bro. All right.